Finland, arguably one of the strongest nations in the new DLC for Hearts of Iron 4, and with the right leadership, it can become absolutely busted. Hey there, my name is Pravus, and welcome to more Hearts of Iron 4 with the new Arms Against Tyranny DLC, which changed up quite a few things, primarily in the Nordics, as well as a few other features. We're going to be playing with Finland in an Iron Man mode game today because I've got a couple of achievements I'd like to hunt for. Of course, you guys are already familiar with achievements like Finish Him, where you have to defeat the Soviet Union without ever joining a faction. Okay, but lesser known, there's another achievement added called the Lone Wolf, where you have to form Greater Finland, conquer a whole load of territory, again, without having ever joined a faction. Now, normally that would mean that you're very limited in your national focus options, right? You'll probably want to go down either the monarchist or the right-wing route, but you can't join the Allies or the Axis, you shouldn't form your own faction, so you're very limited in what you can do. However, a lesser-known change with a patch that came out a few days ago, 1.13.3, is now, at least for the Lone Wolf achievement, you can't join a faction, but creating a faction is completely viable, which means all of a sudden, there's some really fun shenanigans you can do on the right-wing path. I do not know if Finish Him also has been updated. I'm really hoping it has, because they use the same language, don't join a faction. But I could totally see this being an oversight on Paradox's part, so fingers crossed, let's hope that's not the case. So let's go ahead and start with right-wing policies. Now, what this is going to lead to, ultimately, is either the option to discredit the system and gradually become a fascist nation peacefully, or we can prepare a military coup and trigger a civil war. That's a lot faster. That's what I'm going for. Now, in order to prepare for that, we have a couple of things we can do, namely to cheese this civil war. We're going to start by deleting my entire army. And then normally what you would follow this up with is deleting all of your infantry equipment. The reason this works is all of the military factories are located in the southern half of your nation, which is where I'll be starting my civil war. If there are no troops and no guns, the other side starts with literally nothing, only I can produce guns, and all of a sudden, I can train troops, they can't. That's how you win the civil war. However, deleting your guns is now a stupid way to go, because there's this beautiful new thing called the international market. If we want to, we can sell all of this equipment, ideally for the highest price possible. People will buy it, and they'll give me something called an economic capacity surplus. This gets distributed amongst your construction projects, so we're boosting our construction. So instead of deleting our guns, we actually get something for it. That's a pretty good trade. But don't worry, there's even more ways to cheese this in a little bit. You'll see. We'll go ahead and put a second factory in infantry equipment. We only start with 3, so it's not much. I do want to queue up some artillery quickly, then probably some trains and trucks. And convoys are actually going to be kind of important with what I'm doing today as well. We're going to go for a very aggressive early game, and if this works, I'm going to set myself up to be unbelievably powerful very early on. By the way, let's take a look at that international market. Keep an eye on things. Oh, look, we're now selling our stuff to Argentina and to Turkey. Yep, say goodbye to those guns. They're out of my hair, and we're getting some construction progress. I love it. Now, there is something else you have to worry about as Finland, which can get a little bit difficult to mess with. It's the balance of power. We've seen this before, but instead of being balanced between two different internal factions, we have public trust in our leaders, because historically Finland's went through quite a few leaders in the lead up to and during World War II. If you have low trust, it hurts your political power gain, your stability, your war support, and also something called sisu over here, which represents basically the hardiness and the resilience of your army. However, if you have very high trust, you get a lot of goodies, including recruitable population factors. Sisu becomes very, very strong when you're on the offense or the defense in your core territory. Lots of good stuff you like out of this. This guy's losing trust right now because he has a personal agenda. And every leader has a different agenda. This guy wants to eradicate socialism by having very little support for democratic or communist ideologies. We're not meeting that, which is why we're actively losing some trust right now. Also, we cannot lose any cores. But I'm getting rid of this guy soon, so we're going to have a guy with a new agenda, so I'm not worried about this. Right-wing policies is done. The first thing I'm going to do is immediately hire myself a fascist demagogue to start building up that ideological support. And then now that the tree has trimmed up substantially, let's go ahead and prepare that military coup. Like so. Now, normally for the coup, what you'd want to do is start spending your political power to secure the military and build up more support and blah, blah, blah. However, because we're cheesing it, I can skip this step entirely and just rush immediately toward the fascist regime and start that civil war. You can also train yourself 1 cavalry unit if you want to, and it's not going to give the enemy much of a helping hand. I mean, it will a little bit, like when the civil war starts, they'll get some of the equipment, some of the guns that are being trained here. So if you want to be absolutely safe, don't train any units at all. However, I'm not worried about it. I think whatever they're going to train up is so weak and I'll be so fast, it doesn't matter. About halfway through this though, make sure you're going through and selling off any of the new equipment. You've been producing guns and stuff this whole time. We want to delete all of this, or better yet, get value out of it. So go ahead and sell it. We're not doing anything crazy with our research, by the way. These are all very standard things, not worried about it. Just before this completes, by the way, now we can go through here, and I'm gonna go ahead and just delete the last of these guns to make sure that nothing is available for our opponents. The Civil War will trigger. Boom! All right, that is now done. In theory, they now have no factories, basically no guns, and I actually do, which means I can go ahead and start training up a couple more divisions. Only 4 cavalry should be all that I need. And then we'll automatically start deploying this once I start producing guns. So I can train an army, they cannot. By the way, let's go ahead and trade for 1 round of steel, because I actually do need to produce some early convoys. If I don't have enough, we're gonna be very sad. Now at this point, you have some options. We could start working down national unity, which can get us a pretty good advisor for political power gain, factory output, and more fascism support. And then eventually we can demand that Estonia joins our faction, or we're going to get claims on them and we can declare a very early war. Alternatively, the Patriotic People's Movement is not bad. This can get me an advisor who can get me 200 weekly manpower, which is really good for Finland, since we are grossly lacking when it comes to manpower. Or we can start working down some infrastructure, get a few extra factories, lead to things like some consumer goods reductions and so on, and also a dam, which can get you some pretty nice benefits. A lot of this is going to be very, very good for us. I'm going to start with the Patriotic People's Movement, get the extra political power, and ideally maybe we can also get that advisor, but actually that 50 political power is more important right now. By the way, let's also go ahead and immediately jump up to war economy. I don't see why not. And we could also go ahead and do, like, let's say some anti-democratic raids. I will probably also do some anti-communist raids when I get the chance. Why does that matter? Because with our new leader, we have a different agenda. This guy wants to have a lot of manpower and reserve and make sure we haven't gotten any surrender progress, so don't lose any victory points. That's fine, we'll get that anyway. But we also lose some of our balance, our trust, whenever we have more than 9% support for democratic and communist. So I want to start burning these down just to stabilize my trust in this nice high point right here, because it's getting me extra manpower, stability, and war support. This is good. So with that extra political power, let's go ahead and do the anti-communist raids. I know we don't have any stability, but we're in a freaking civil war. We had no stability anyway. By the way, let's go ahead and deploy that cavalry, and we will immediately start running up the coast and grab some of these victory points. As soon as we are up to 20% training with these guys, we should be able to force deploy the other 3 cavalry divisions, and they can also start grabbing some victory points for me. That's the People's Movement I was looking for. Okay, so national unity, do we want to start working down this now, or would I rather go ahead and get some infrastructure and railways and so on? Honestly, they're all kind of viable here. I also really love getting the Academic Karelian Society because we get an extra bit of political power gain. And believe it or not, we really need political power early in the game, so I'm gonna go ahead and pick that up next. I wanna go ahead and grab that Nationalist Lutheran Priest now. I think the answer is yes for the weekly manpower and the daily fascism support, so let's go ahead and pick that up. And honestly, 3 cavalry should be all that I need, but we've got 4 now, so that's good. Let's just go ahead and win the Civil War really quickly. Now, one thing you could do, I didn't do this because this feels even more cheesy than it should, but what we could have done is actually canceled our contracts with all of these people right here to go ahead and get our guns back. And they would go to me and not to the other Finland. I'll go ahead and show you what I mean here. So first off, let's turn off the auto sell. Let's go ahead and end this. And what's gonna happen now is we say, hey, I don't actually wanna sell these anymore. They go back into my stockpile, and lo and behold, I actually have a surplus of guns. We could have done that to force deploy the cavalry a bit faster. Didn't feel the need to do that, but we could have. If we had done that, I would have won the war about 2-3 weeks faster, but even that feels like too much of a cheese, and I feel like Paradox might change that someday in the future. Maybe. Anyway, Civil War is over. That was easy. Let's go ahead and get rid of these guys. I no longer feel like I need this cavalry. Instead, we're gonna go ahead and start training up just some very basic infantry divisions. All right, we have the Academic Karelian Society. Now we can go for Finnish supremacy in the north. This is going to be really important for my strategy, and it would create a faction. But again, with this latest patch, it doesn't matter. One thing we probably could do, I could save up my political power right now, and it wouldn't be a bad idea, but to ensure that we're going to stabilize as quickly as possible, I'm going to spend 50 political power to entice the masses. This is going to slow down my ultimate ramp up just a tiny bit, but keeps our trust nice and high. And I think that ultimately that's probably going to be worth it. So we'll click this button. That reduces the democratic support down a fair bit more. I'm hoping the anti-democratic raids will take us the rest of the way. My math may be slightly off on that. That might not be enough. That would suck. Well, one thing we're gonna go ahead and do is start researching some naval transports. That is something I know that I'm going to need. And the rest of my political power is saved, reserved. I can do nothing with this for at least a bit. Why do I need that political power? Because now that we have finished the Finnish supremacy, we are able to start promoting our ideology in some of the different Nordic nations or the Baltics. I'm gonna go ahead and start immediately promoting ideology in Sweden, for example. We're gonna do the same in Norway and in Denmark. The reason being, what's going to end up happening is this is going to give these guys not only some gradual fascist influence, but also significantly higher acceptance for fascist diplomacy. They will say yes to a lot of things that I ask them to do, including eventually, ideally, pressuring them to join our faction and hopefully also flip their government fascist. But ultimately what matters to me is that they join my faction. Now, as far as some other options here for what we could do, I could go ahead and start working on that infrastructure, and it would not be a bad plan at all. I could also start working down the Finnish Legion of Honor and the wargaming, lead to Finnish irredentism, which is not a terrible plan. Or we could go ahead and start working on national unity, which I do want this, because that's going to lead toward that Estonian either faction or a war. And the sooner I have the war, probably the better. So let's go ahead and start working down the national unity next. The one problem with promoting these ideologies is it does drain away some of your political power while it happens. So if you're doing this with all three of them simultaneously, you're not going to be making almost any political power at all, which means it takes forever to actually pressure these governments. That's why I wanted to grab the Karelian Society and get that extra 0.15, because that helps offset the damage just a bit. By the way, it turns out, yeah, we did not quite get rid of enough democracy. Ah, that sucks. So I'd have to do another round of democratic raids in order to get rid of this. Eesh. Right, or we could have just like banned the parties. If I had enough political power, that could also be an option. But you'd lose a lot of stability and it doesn't come back, whereas the raids do build the stability back up. So this is still the preferable option. Nonetheless, can't afford to do this right now. It is way more important we go ahead and start boosting up ideology in countries like Norway, Sweden, and Denmark as quickly as we can. First, if some new troops are available, excellent. Once I have access to the transports, I'll be able to start planning out some rounds to attack here in Estonia. But again, it's going to be a while before we have a claim if they reject joining my faction in the first place. And there's no guarantee they will. They may actually decide they want to just go ahead and join, which is fine. We'll go ahead and pick up Viran Kansa over here, just so we will know what their answer is. That will determine what I do going forward a little bit. And I honestly regret enticing the masses. If I had not done that, we probably could have been promoting people right a little bit faster. So if you're following this down to the letter, since the math didn't work out the way I was hoping for, don't entice the masses, go ahead and save your political power, start pressuring Denmark a little bit earlier. The thing that I really want to point out, though, is we are a part of a faction, right? We are Finnish Supremacy League. But take a look at achievements. Things like Finish Him, it's still available. What about Lone Wolf? It's still available, because I didn't join a faction. I just made my own. That definitely did not used to be a thing. It was not a very well advertised change by Paradox, but it completely changes Finland's options with the new tree in order to get those achievements. Makes it so much easier. All right, Estonia has rejected our proposal. They've chosen their fate. We are going to go ahead and gain our claims. That means that now I'll go ahead and start justifying a war goal. It's going to take 125 days. No big deal. All right, with that all done, I guess I'll go ahead and start working down the wargaming department and the Legion of Honor. Get toward that Finnish irredentism. By the time we're done with all of that, I'm hoping that I will be able to pressure the governments of Sweden, Norway, and Denmark to join my faction. Maybe flip fascist, but even if they don't, that's not the end of the world. So for example, let's go ahead and start improving relations in Sweden. Why do we want to improve relations? Because unless you have 50, you're not going to be able to pressure them even if you have the political power. So right before you're ready to click that button, go ahead and start improving. Shouldn't be too hard to get them above 50. So now we are ready to go ahead and pressure the Swedish government. Let's do that. Again, costing me all this extra political power, which is oh so very annoying, but it's fine. Start boosting relations with Norway, and then we should be able to start working on them pretty soon. As for Sweden, they are, whoops, I thought that was gonna be the pop-up. It's not. They have a new government. They have not joined our faction yet. That's not a huge deal yet. Sweden's weird in that way because they have this whole neutral foreign policy nonsense. As long as they're fascist, they'll get rid of this soon, and when they do, we should be able to invite them to the faction because remember, they have a very good reason to join us. Oh, by the way, our balance of power has finally stabilized. Okay, took a while, but we got there. The important thing is it stopped while we were still at high trust. So I have not lost anything here. That's good. Oh, by the way, Sweden has indeed gotten rid of the neutrality. Invite to faction, done. That's ultimately what I really cared about. Thank you. Justification is done to go ahead and attack. Guess we could go ahead and do this. Is there any reason not to? First off, do we have enough convoys? No, not quite. I may want to wait for just a minute for at least one more convoy to be done. So yeah, let's wait like another week or two. Finnish irredentism is next on my lists. Now, this is an important inflection point on this entire campaign. Norway sometimes will flip governments to fascist and then immediately join the Axis instead of you. If that happens, go ahead and cry and restart. The same is true actually with any of these guys. If they flip fascist and do not join the Axis, go ahead and retry this, because you really want all three of these guys to join your faction. It doesn't matter if they flip fascist, it's preferable, but it's not a big deal. What really matters is they join your faction, dang it. There we go. All right, so that's a thing. Norway is not fascist, but they are a part of my faction. I'll take it. We now have enough convoys that I feel like we can go ahead and do this. Where's my navy? We're gonna take you guys and set you to naval invasion support, of course. And let's go ahead and declare the war. All right, Estonia shall be mine. We are launching at all 5 locations simultaneously, and they are, you know, protecting their shoreline, which is admittedly a little bit of a problem. They're protecting it better than I expected them to be honest. Hold on. I just need a breakthrough somewhere. Anywhere will do. Right here is good for example. Anything along those lines, I'll take it. We did allow Sweden and such to join with a little bit of extra bombardment. Maybe we'll be fine. The Germans even sent some volunteers, which I don't really care, but like, sure, thank you. And can we pressure Denmark? Yes, we can. Let's do it. We're about to grab the port. Got it. Thank you. Okay, so now that we have a port, we feel pretty good about ourselves. We can go ahead and start ferrying all of the troops. Okay, we're surrounding, we're crushing. All of them are going to die. Beautiful. Everyone get up here to the front and help. Except for one of you guys, go over this direction, make sure we grab these islands so that they've got nothing left. We're gonna grab some of these victory points, and these guys should not last much longer at all. Estonia is gone, goodbye. Now, you might think I wanna take this land for myself, and we could, but then I have to garrison it, and I have no manpower to speak of. What might make more sense is just go ahead and, like, you know, puppet them and stuff. So I'll do that. I'll also confiscate all of their factories and also all of their resources. So this should be all we need. Go ahead and confirm they've been puppeted, and that's that. We also get all of their factories and their resources. Now I don't have to worry about them. That's done. Thank you. And what this does is now set us up for something down over here called Ambitions in the South, where I can get claims on Latvia and Lithuania. If I want to expand my empire a little bit more, we can. Oh, and there we go. Denmark joins the faction. Okay. Again, they did not flip to the correct fascist ideology, but it doesn't matter. They joined the faction. Okay. This is the literal hardest part of the setup of Finland. If you miss out on any of these 3 guys, you're probably gonna end up being very, very sad, but okay. Finnish irredentism is done. Let's go for something here called Keepers of the North. Now this is obscenely overpowered. White Finland is now gonna demand the annexation of every Nordic subject or ally in the faction. That's everyone in Scandinavia. Let's do it. Before we do that, something I want to do is start building up a couple of supply hubs. Let's say one up over, I think, about here, and then another one up over here in Sala, let's say right there, because when the Soviets inevitably come knocking, and you know they will, I would like to actually have, like, some supply, because if I have supply, and they don't, which, you know, they won't, we will have a huge defensive advantage. So let's go ahead and do this, get these connected, and then I'm going to put these at the top. And what I'm going to do real quick is reorganize the railway systems, ideally before we have a chance of annexing anybody else, because then this option goes away, because you have like too many factories or blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Let's just go ahead and click the dang button so it builds 300% faster. I'll also pick up my last advisor, Mario Chianto. More political power gain, more stability, a reduction in justifying war goals, which will be helpful against Latvia and Lithuania if I'm still going to make a push against them, and also say goodbye to that communism support. All right, this is it. This is the last big hurdle. It all comes down to this. Please tell me it works. All right, Norway becomes a part of Finland. Denmark becomes a part of Finland. Denmark transfers control of Iceland. And Sweden becomes a part of Finland. Okay, so just like that, I just annexed all of Scandinavia and all of their holdings. All of it. All of it. You know what that means? It means we can go down here, and we can now proclaim Nordic unity, and I just became the Nordic Empire, and I just gained cores on all of it. And can we still do these achievements? Oh yeah, we can. Finish him and Lone Wolf. Still an option! This is why using factions now as Finland is so good when going for these achievements. Holy crud, we just became a powerhouse. So what we're about to find is I'm about to get a whole lot more manpower, and we're gonna get a whole bunch more factories I can work with, good God. And if I want to, let's go for some ambitions in the south. Why not? I'll just snag the Baltics before the Soviets have a chance. Now, admittedly, this is not as much manpower as you would expect. And that's because we've spent so much political power getting to this point, we haven't even changed any of our conscription laws and so on. Still need to do that, and the good thing about Finland is there are a lot of focuses down the military tree and other places where we can start boosting up that recruitable population factor by a pretty decent margin. Oh my gosh, and we now have how many? We have 68 civilian factories. I can actually start ramping up my economy. Heck yeah, man. Should also note we have all the Swedish steel and everything else, so like, yeah, I even have a lot of resources. The only thing I'm really gonna be lacking is oil and rubber, which is unfortunate, but I mean, if I can find a good partner with the Allies for something like this, who even cares? So now I just need to produce a whole load of artillery, infantry equipment, and support equipment to do that, and we are gonna have some very infantry-heavy armies, more than enough to deal with the Soviets. The real threat now is actually gonna be the Germans. If the Germans decide to push across here during World War II, I'm in trouble. Maybe. If I build some forts, we'll be okay. We've done it before. But the Soviets are the real ones I'm worried about because that's the Winter War. Honestly, now that I think about it, I don't even know if the Germans can get a focus against us. Is there national focus against Denmark and Norway specifically? Because if so, I'm not Denmark or Norway, I'm Finland / the Nordic Empire. They might not even be able to get claims against me. I'm not positive on that one. Oh my god, I just realized I inherited all of the Scandinavian navies too. It's only December of 1937 for the record, by the way. This is faster than any of my test games. So like, we found the seam here. Follow my strategy here, and in theory, you can become literally a world power by the end of 1937. This is more than enough time to ramp up and take down the Soviets. More than enough time. Okay, that's the ambitions in the south, which means now we can go to Latvia and begin the claim. We have generated 2.8% world tension at this point. It's been ticking down, so 4% more here should be okay, and it's only gonna take 65 days because of the advisors and so on. And by the time it's done, people could theoretically start guaranteeing, but I'm hoping that they won't. I'm hoping. Hey, let's go ahead and get Monturva over here, by the way. This is gonna create an intelligence agency for us because y'all know if I'm gonna fight against the Soviets, I want as many collaboration governments as possible. It'll make my life way easier. I also really want to up my conscription law. That said, it would not be a bad plan to go ahead and get some army offense experts. Get some XP, some division attack. There used to be, in an early version of the game before some patches, a much better genius army chief of army available. I think that guy got removed. It's like Mannerheim or something like that. I think he got removed if you go down the fascist route. Might be wrong on that, but he's obviously not there now, so something happened to him. Now, something we could do is actually stir up some anti-Soviet sentiment here in Karelia, try to get that to break off as an independent nation. Honestly, I don't see the reason to do that, though. I kind of like the Soviets' position here. They're going to be set up in an area where they'll take a massive amount of attrition, especially since I'm about to finish my next supply hub, so we're fine, and they're not. So yeah, I don't really see a reason to do that. Oh, one little thing I forgot to mention, by the way. If you do follow my strategy down to the letter, you'll actually get another achievement called, I think, Northern Lights, which I don't know where that is up here right now, but the point is you have to have a Scandinavian faction with all of the Nordics as members, which we did for a very brief moment. So even though it wasn't the achievement I was going for, you can get a little bonus. There's my justification. We've generated 6.3% of the world's tension. We can declare our war, which does create 6% more, which actually means that we won't be able to take Lithuania without guarantees from the Allies, at least until it's burned down for a bit. Which is okay, it's not the end of the world, just a little annoying, so it means we can't go ahead and justify anything. Let's not worry about that right now. Let's go ahead and declare our war, of course, and launch the next naval invasion, which really shouldn't be that difficult to deal with. There we go, got those guys in pretty easy. Let's go for a quick little cutoff over here to make sure these guys go nowhere. You guys come down over here, assist in this area. Let's make sure we can get to Riga and get ourselves a port. And that's my spy agency, thank you kindly. We still haven't worried about any of my infrastructure focuses. We really should, but some of this is so good. Look at this. An extra 15% production efficiency growth and output, more factories and stuff sounds great. Okay. Create a bunch of free units and get 15% recruitable population factor. I like that. Also get really good upgrades for my generals, make them super cheap, and then finally get myself an extra one of these research slots, plus more political power, plus research speed. Oh my God, it's overpowered. So I'll go ahead and indoctrinate these workers. Why not? Just a little indoctrination. And of course, I also want to go ahead and get that extensive conscription, which is going to translate into a lot of manpower for me. First spy available. I guess I'll take the seducer. We're about to get a second one already, which is amazing. And we should start getting ourselves some upgrades over here. Sure, we'll start with things like the suicide pills, etc. Get to 3 spies if you can. It makes it so much easier. Can also grab our first round of doctrines. I'll take superior firepower this game because I'm gonna go very heavy on our artillery. Grab another victory point, and there we go. Latvia is down. Just like with Estonia, I actually don't feel like I want to occupy this territory. They've got pretty much nothing to offer me. I'm gonna take whatever ships they've got for the fun of it, and then we'll probably puppet them and just demand some war reps. Good enough for me, thank you. Latvia is now mine. Okay, and also someone's willing to join my faction. Who? Lithuania is willing to join. Yeah, that's cute and all. I'd rather just annex you. How much world tension? See, I've generated too much world tension. This will create a guarantee, so I have to sit back and do nothing with this for a while. It's okay, though. I mean, if I don't get Lithuania, it's not a huge deal. But I'd say overall, we're looking pretty good here, don't you think? In fact, overall, I think that's actually a pretty good place for us to end this video. Now, this did take me several reloads in order to pull this off, so if you're trying to follow this along, understand there is some level of RNG. But from here on out, it really shouldn't be a matter of randomness. Right now, we should be able to just build up our country, get a huge force, and go toe-to-toe against the Soviet Union, because we can do things like that. So this is not going to be that hard from here on out. This is the hardest part. If you follow this down to the letter, you can get lucky. If not, all right, reload. You haven't lost that much. It's still pretty early on. Thank you all for watching. Hope you're looking forward to the rest of the series of Finland's going for the Lone Wolf and the Finish Him achievements. If so, I would ask you to hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, make sure you hit that notify bell, and I will see you guys next time.